Hello, everyone.
Hello,
I
Adelaide.
I assume you're all excellent.
Yes, indeed we are. We assume the same of you.
Yes, I am. All right. So you're welcome. Welcome to our call here today. And this session, we're going to talk about something that is really important uh for a trillionaire to have in mind and operate from. And it is the powerful concept of dying, or put differently, commitments to a specific nature of ideal. What you're committed to is what you're willing to trade your life for, or what you're willing to use your life to express. They're kind of the same thing. Whichever way you look at it, gives a different idea or impression that offers certain attitudes or ways of being around the concept. For example, if you're looking at it from the sense of, okay, dying, then you're considering the art by which a person lets go of an old concept and takes on a new concept. So that's the art of dying, of course. If you die, you're raised the third day, meaning you're raised in a new body, in the body that is presentable to the Father on the third day, meaning you arise in a new attitude or state of mind that implies the wish is fulfilled, the one that could enter heaven or the ideal. People around the world often don't die, just as um, William Blake did mention it, right? However, billionaires and trillionaires actually do. You see a number of times that they move from one state into another. As okay, so that's the first way to consider it. The second way to consider it, if you're looking at it in terms of commitment, that is their commitment to a vision. And you'd find that billionaires often commit to an ideal state of being and give all else away just to stay committed to that ideal state of being. To the point that they often get called stubborn by some people, all right, or resilient by some others, or relentless by some others. But it's simply that they stay on the vision. Now, again, not many people have the kind of stubbornness, if you want to put it that way, that billionaires have here, or commitment. To many others, the commitment is to the process. This thing worked yesterday, it ought to work again today the same way it worked yesterday, right? We used that process 2 days ago and it did the thing, so it should still do it now. That is what a lot of people are like committed with. But for a billionaire, the commitment is on the level of the vision. What do I want to realize now? And then simply commit to it, achieve it. Even if everyone says, nah, that's not gonna work, or that cannot be done, or that's crap, it's not gonna happen. They simply stay on course and achieve that goal. That's the second thing you'll find. That's another way to look at it. So the first way is in dying and living again, which if you look at it too now, Usually they're pretty much the same idea, but they offer you different perspectives of understanding what's going on in the mind of you as a trillionaire. In the art of dying, you recognize that however wonderful, good, and amazing the past results or experiences have been, you don't have to keep them alive today on the trade-off of the new dreams and aspirations and aims that you could be realizing. So that is, you die to the old state, even though it might have been a glorious state. All right. You die to the old and awake to the new. Another is commitment, which we just mentioned also. So the second one is commitment. With commitment, what we can see there is a billionaire commits to the vision more than to the process. Again, the process, of course, is born from what worked in the past. This was useful yesterday. That happened yesterday. So it also happened again today like that. It also happened again tomorrow like that. Right? That is what ordinary persons just do. But billionaires don't get stuck on that. Not necessarily they're not going to try that process first, but hey, if that process doesn't deliver the result or the vision that is in the mind of the billionaire, it doesn't stay faithful to it. It actually changes it. All right. It takes himself back to the vision and commits to the vision and stays faithful to it. Okay. So he stays committed and faithful to the vision only. And of course, that sometimes makes you stubborn. Yeah, well, let him be. Something new is going to be born out of it, out of that persistence of faithfulness to the vision. So if you look at it either of those ways, you still come to the end result that for the billionaire or the trillionaire, the important thing is staying on course with the wish fulfilled. Whatever it is that might mean they've got to do away with. In other words, you must be willing to change yourself, even if that's what it's going to take to have the results you want to have. You've got to make up your mind that you are willing to go all the way to the length of changing your mind, if that is what it's going to take, in order for you to produce the results that you want. Do you all follow? Good. Dying to the physical, even if the physical you're dying to is the most glorious. Look at the awakened imagination. Well, the physical thing he died to, or the life he died to, that was crucified, was actually glorious. It did amazing and miraculous things, but still died to it. And then he was raised in a body that was heavenly and totally divine. So, what are you faithful to at the moment? That's the question you want to ask yourself. What are you being faithful to right now? What are you being faithful to on a daily basis? Because what you're faithful to is what reflects, whether that is reflect as in it reveals, is what reveals whether you are in the state of being that billionaire trillionaire or you are just still going on randomly. Now, faithfulness to the vision, commitment to the person you would like to be. That is the all important thing. And we've just mentioned right now, for billionaires, that's exactly how they live. For trillionaires, that's exactly how they operate. And I want you to revert to a statement I mentioned earlier. Even if it means changing your mind, oftentimes that's what a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to be a different person. They want to change their minds. They want to, stay the same way because at least I know myself this way, right? At least I have a sense of who I am this way. And changing that disorients everything. So no, I don't want to change myself. I don't want to change my mind and any other way you want to put it. But the billionaire doesn't think that way. Doesn't need to be familiar with the self he used to know. And doesn't get apologetic on changing into the new self. Okay? So this is a new concept. Make up your mind to be the person that simply dies to the old concept. You'll need that a lot of times. Even when you are the trillionaire you'd love to be, you'll still be dying a lot of times to a lot of old concepts and resurrecting to the new. So make up your mind to be that person. And when you do that, you will find yourself rising to higher and higher levels rapidly. Okay? So billionaires stay committed. Billionaires stay committed, but not committed to what the process was. A lot of people say trust the process. No, billionaires stay committed to the vision. There are times they actually change the process. Yeah, they follow it through to the end and they go, oh, well, okay, you know what? Let's change it. But they stay committed to the vision. And it's like whatever it takes to be the person I love to be. However, I'm not talking in the extreme of saying, oh, that justifies doing something that you are not going to be happy with or proud of. No. But I'm saying that just because at the moment you're not accustomed to a certain way of living or a certain model or even a certain way of operating does not mean you have to remain faithful to the way you used to live. If it does not conform to the person you'd like to be, if it does not agree to you being a trillionaire, be willing and ready to change it. And that's what I'm saying. And I mean, really mean, there are a lot of things that at the moment you are justifying holding on to them, but you're only justifying holding on to them because, well, they excuse you from being the person you would like to be. And when you make that justification of holding on to them, it makes sense to anyone else who listens. Like, sure, yeah, we can understand that. We can totally relate. We can totally understand it. Right? There are a lot of times of that. But if you begin to simply be like this lesson is encouraging you to be, a trillionaire who dies to the old state and resurrects to the new rapidly, quickly. If you become that, you'll find yourself just moving on to higher and newer levels of experience quickly, so fast. And that is how billionaires and trillionaires actually live. In order to do it, one thing is required to be an understanding that is deeply rooted in you. And the required thing is to know that you are not the state you are in. You are imagination. You're not your state. You are imagination. Um, Before I bought a car, I actually had to change my concept of cars. I realized I had a concept that totally didn't like the idea of owning cars, and I had to justify it on so many reasons. It made sense when I talk about it to myself. Maybe it made sense to people I was saying it to. Maybe they actually saw through it and went, huh, excuses. I don't know. But it totally made sense to me. Why do I want to have cars? For me, all my life, well, my dad, uh, drove us, rode us, in fact, on a super bike all my life. Okay. And if we were going and there was a traffic congestion, you could be sure that we're going to leave all the cars that were in the traffic congestion behind because we're on a bike. Okay, it's much faster, much easier to maneuver and get to to the finish line quickly with it. So first I went, well, bikes is so good. Second, I went, cars get stuck in traffic. Right? Then I also didn't like the idea of the constant maintenance you have to do on cars, like the way you have to maintain cars. Not like you won't maintain bikes, but I didn't even know that. I didn't pay attention to that. But you see, cars, I knew every now and then from car users I'd seen, they had to keep going to buy this, going to repair that, going to fix this. So I just went, oh. And then finally, you know what happens on the road rage thing? Oh. So I used all of this to justify not having a car, not owning one. It totally made sense to me. Even though I very much wanted to have one, I justified not having it. Until when I started to go, okay, let me change my concepts. And I went all of this concept, oh, come on, die to them. Bottom line, I have a car. End of discussion, right? So die to all of them and simply have the car. And I began to assume that, well, that's produced the result. But I had to die to those. There are a lot of stuff you're going to die to like that. Oh, billionaires, what are they doing for the rest of the world? The billionaires just isn't necessary. They don't pay as much taxes as they're meant to. Die to all of them. Just die to all those concepts and be raised into a new state of being, into being a billionaire and a trillionaire. So that's the encouragement today, and that's the concept. So I want you to be aware of. Okay, Scott says, also not fighting against the pricks of the art, being one with the ideal at all times. One, imagination. Okay. And and he fell unto the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Yes, that is right. Hard for you to kick against the pricks, so don't. Rather, allow yourself to go. I have seen the Lord. I cannot ignore. I cannot let go of the vision of heaven. And what's the vision of heaven? The vision of the Lord. What's the vision of the Lord? Your ideal. Again, I'll repeat this. Billionaires stay committed. When they say they will accomplish something, they do. Okay? And no matter what they have to give up in doing it, they actually are willing and ready to pay all that price. But you'll find the one thing they have to really give up is all the beliefs they've got of what they don't like, what they wish didn't happen, how they wish how, how things are stuck, all the beliefs they've got around those. They're willing to actually let them go. And also, of course, part of the price is, you respect someone, you love someone, you've cherished someone, and the person says, nah, why that? Or don't go there. But then you simply say no. It takes everything in your heart to actually do that. Now they call it stubbornness. Okay, people even fancy it now as, oh, it's like that's that's one of the traits being a rebel. No, no, no. Billionaires don't want to be a rebel necessarily. They don't want to like say, I'm not gonna hear what others are saying that I can do, I'll do it anyway. They don't want to actually be like that. If there is anything, they want others to be on board. But they are willing to pay the price of temporarily letting go of that. Okay, yeah, let me conform to others. in order to achieve that goal. In fact, if it requires a permanent letting go of conforming to others, they're willing to do it. Right. Not that you don't want others to be on board, but see, if they say no, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll accomplish the thing. I'll be the trillionaire. And then simply stay committed to that vision. So that is what you find in trillionaires, just like you all have within you. Okay, so that's our lesson of today. I'll see you on Sunday for our next call. And until then, bye bye, everyone.